One, two. Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Timon. I just came back from my shift. It's almost exactly 1 a.m. And I thought I'll just ramble a bit about, art, music history, art history, and, the whole world around it because world revolves around art. And so I was inspired to do this kind of vlog. I don't know if you say the word vlog anymore, but whatever, like a video vlog by Ethel Kane. I recently got into Ethel Kane quite a lot. I was always more on the lingua ignota side of Southern Gothic aesthetic, but that's a theme for another video for sure. I'll definitely make a video about Southern Gothic aesthetic because oh my god, it's so beautiful. But anyway, and even before I got into Ethel Kane's music, I watched and fell asleep to her vlogs, and she talked about a million stuff there, and it was so interesting. And just kind of listening to this artist that I totally respect and really like her music, mm, just talk about some just random stuff and some very interesting stuff. So as a totally unknown artist, I don't know, musician, person who likes art, I thought I'll do a similar thing, and we'll see how it goes. And so today I wanted to talk about Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, Neil Young, and the Hamlet of it all. And what does that mean? I'll get into that in a second. But um, I guess let's start with why did I want to make a video like this, and why is it the first topic of the first ever video I'm doing like this. It's because I don't know. I mean, listen, I listened to Nirvana. I started listening to Nirvana when I was like, I don't know, 14, like, the typical age you start listening to Nirvana at. And, it was my whole world. Like, oh my God, it opened so much doors for me. Like, back then I listened to, like, the whole of my life, I listened to a lot of different music. Like, one of my first favorite bands was Kraftwerk and Limp Bizkit. So it was, always, always diverse. But Nirvana really opened a whole just world of music and potential to me. And with time, I kind of once set it in the back, then returned to it, and it's like a cycle. I think I'm not the only one who once every like 6 months needs to like listen to every Nirvana interview and essay on YouTube. So yeah, I really wanted to touch on this subject because I am now in that phase, in that Nirvana phase that comes by yearly for a lot of just Nirvana nerds, and I'm a Nirvana nerd totally. Okay, so before I get into the like current just side of Nirvana conversation and what's going on internet about it, and just how it evolved over the 30 plus years of being in the center of pop culture, I'll start by how I got introduced to Nirvana. And now I have a lot of CDs and everything here by Nirvana because I like collecting records. As you can see in the back, there is a poster I got for the 30th anniversary of In Utero. I got it from like I think a bus stop. It was just like an advertisement on the bus stop, and so I just ripped it, and yeah, it's a cool poster. Yeah, says a lot. I wish I was like you, easily amused. Okay, but I'll grab the first CD that I ever listened to, and it's not your like typical one. Here is Incesticide by Nirvana. Um, it's a really underrated CD. It was the first one I ever listened to, and not like consciously listened to, but from what I remember, I found the CD in my father's collection, and I remember putting it on, and just being, I don't know if blown away is the correct word, but I was really captivated. And I don't really remember, I don't have a good memory for like a lot of stuff, but when I listen to it, I get such a strong feeling of nostalgia. It's crazy. And I don't get that strong of a feeling with almost any record. And that's crazy. And as you can see, um, the box is empty because the CD has been played a lot recently. But yeah, this one is great. Dive, Sliver. They have the songs on this album have such a strong feeling of just childhood and teenagehood, more than Nevermind, in my opinion. I don't know why, but especially like lyrics to Sliver, which are just basically straightforward, just telling a story of teenage or slash like the early teenage, I guess, Kurt. Um, and yeah, Molly's Lips, the Vaseline's covers, and of course Aneurysm, which is one of the best Nirvana songs. And so yeah, I think this city is great. It's really overlooked. But yeah, so I remember listening to this city, but I didn't like consciously think, oh, I'm listening to Nirvana now. I was just like, okay, it's a good CD. I don't know. I listened to just Guardians of the Galaxy Volume One. Like, it was that type of that time in my like music education, I guess. And so a couple years passed by, and then I listened to Something in the Way for the first time. I know. I mean, no, that's a lie. But I always, of course, knew the hits, and I knew the history, and I was like a well-educated child in music history. I really knew Nirvana, but the first time I like truly got into it and got my first big Nirvana phase was Something in the Way. And then, of course, I listened to Nevermind, which was great, but I really didn't get that much of a Nevermind phase when I was little. I don't know why, and I still, to this day, like, I listen to Nevermind from time to time, and it's a great album. Like, of course it is, but the album that truly, like, got me into them and just floored me was In Utero. And as you can see by the poster and by the vinyl, and of course, I've got the Nevermind vinyl, and I've got, Bleach is right here in the corner, and some bootlegs are over there by the candles. But yeah, In Utero is totally my favorite album, and I feel like it's the most complete album that truly shows us the vision of Cobain, from the front to the back art, to the lyrics. The lyrics are truly, you can sense that. The incense is getting in my way. You can sense, in a sense, that Cobain was truly comfortable with the lyrics, and I don't mean comfortable as in he was happy or comfortable in that stage of his life. I just mean comfortable by the completion of art. Like, this is truly a complete piece of art. And so yeah, so that's my story with Nirvana. And by the years, of course, I got into other bands. I got into more obscure bands, but Nirvana was one of those, and still is one of those bands that truly comes back. Like, I don't really come back to I don't know, the Beatles that much. Although I love the Beatles and Kurt loved the Beatles, and everyone should just a little love the Beatles. Don't get me wrong, but Nirvana is probably one of the only bands that are staples in music history that truly come back to me regularly. Regularly, yeah. Okay, and and so yeah, I I really wanted to talk about Nirvana tonight because of how it's perceived by not just by fans like me or you, I guess, I don't know you, but I suppose you are a Nirvana fan since you're watching this, but also by the general public. I don't know, it's a strange case. It's a really strange case because the persona of Kurt Cobain is rare. Like, I feel like everyone has an opinion about Cobain and some sort of a connection. Even if you just know Nirvana by, Teen Spirit and Come As You Are and, all that stuff, you still have a connection to it. You still have some sort of a connection and some sort of a opinion. Whether it's a good opinion or a bad opinion or neutral, it's still an opinion. And I don't think that happens too much with other bands and other cultures. And I wanted to talk about why this happens, why so many of us have this connection to Cobain and his art, and why, when I do this regular sort of Nirvana just recap and watch the same interviews over and over and the same live shows and everything and video essays, which I'll get back to because that's a really strange case too. Then what brings us here every time? And I think when you want to talk about the impact of Nirvana, you have to go back a lot in music history. You need to go back to the Beatles, of course, but you also need to go back to Neil Young. And that's also kind of interesting how in recent years Neil Young has really made a comeback, especially in my generation. Like when you go to any Facebook fan group or anything, Neil Young is really prevalent there, and people really take notice of Neil Young again. Not like he disappeared or anything, but I think Neil Young is really, really crucial to to understanding Cobain. Also because he ties in very well to the end of Kurt Cobain with the album. What was the name? Sings with Angels, I think that's the name. Because many of you know probably that Kurt cited Neil Young in his suicide note, and so he wrote that very famous quote that now is printed onto T-shirts and whatnot. It's better to burn out than to fade away. And yeah, that's a Neil Young song. That's from Hey Hey My, or I don't know. That's the title. I don't know. But yeah, and so when Neil Young found out that Cobain cited him in his last note, he did an album which really reflected on being cited in such a note, but also kind of counteracted the notion that it's better to burn out than to fade away. And I think that's a really interesting cycle because I don't want to speak for everyone, but it's an interesting case of kids who come from broken families, and broken families. One broken family is very different to another broken family, but all of them have a like a something in the core of it that ties them all together. And I think Kurt, being from a broken family, really tapped into that and made us feel understood. I don't want to say us, just people with tough, I don't know, backgrounds. He made them feel understood, and not in the way that he consciously wanted to. Oh, I wanted to tap into this exact feeling of community. No, he was just speaking his mind, and and I think that in after his passing, this was just turned into this, like, I don't know, ideologized. I don't know. Sorry, English is not my first language, as you can hear, but it got really, like, mythed up. It was mythical for people to perceive Cobain as this tragic figure, and I guess you can say he was a tragic figure, but no, in my opinion, he was just a person, and all of us have tragic, like, experiences and whatnot, and that's not what we should, I guess, focus on. And that's also interesting, and I wanted to, like, think out loud about why is it that we feel comfortable with Nirvana's lyrics and with Kurt Cobain as a person. Why do we feel comfortable watching those interviews and watching these video essays, which, like, let's be honest, they tell the same story. They tell the story of the same man, and we watch it over and over again. And why is it comfortable? Why isn't it more comfortable, or even more acknowledged, that the person who Cobain cited in his note has kind of answered the citation and kind of turned it on its head, especially in the song. What was the name of the song? Oh man, I don't remember. It's like a 14-minute song, which basically tells you that it's not the right thing to do, what Cobain did. But still, we feel comfortable. We feel comfortable with with the story, and I guess it's also the really typical just narrative that tragedy brings comfort, and that's really weird. I mean, when you take it at face value, it's really weird. And why is that? And it's not just with Cobain; it's also with Ian Curtis. You can see it, but I have a Joy Division poster on my wall. It's with Curtis, it's with Buckley, although Buckley is a kind of a special case. Both of them different cases, but still, kind of similar. And yeah, but I think the being comfortable and the fascination with tragedy even goes back to Shakespearean days with Hamlet, of course, which Cobain also cited in his first note when he, of course, overdosed in Rome. He wrote that, what was it? Like Hamlet, I have to choose between life and death, and I chose death. And we all know Hamlet and the famous soliloquy of to be or not to be. That is the question: whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. And yeah, that's still true to this day, and it's true in all genres of music, but especially the more tragic ones. And so yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to talk about it. But yeah, another topic that I wanted to bring up are those goddamn video essays. Like, and I'm not talking about those well-made video essays that really, like, I don't know, bring a new perspective to the band, or just like me, just, I don't know, talk about it and express their own opinions and their own feelings and perspectives, because perspectives are really important. What's not important are is just reciting a stolen video essay, like many of those YouTube channels do. They just steal someone else's essay, or just like in goddamn middle school, they write it slightly differently and then recite it. And I think those types of essays and videos and documentaries, and even just word of mouth, that type of perspective, um, it's really harmful, and I think that it creates this tragic narrative. If everyone just spoke their mind and brought their own perspective, then the discussion around Nirvana would have been much more different and much more nuanced. But instead, we like to glamorize it, and I don't really like to say we, because I feel like we don't. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we like the nuance, and we like the perspectives, the different nuanced perspectives of people who, for example, took place in that scene, like the book, the Mark Lanegan book, Sing Backwards and Weep, which is amazing. Like, sorry, if you like grunge, if you like that type of that scene and learning about music, then Sing Backwards and Weep is a must. It's a genius book, and it's the example of what I'm talking about. It's a perspective. It's a perspective of a man who, sung in Screaming Trees, was an active member of the Seattle community, and was a close friend of Kurt and of Lane and of almost everyone there. And that's what we need, not the 10 things you didn't know about Kurt Cobain and the watch module stuff. Like, I think I don't know if boycott is the right word, but we should stop watching it. Like, and I know I'm guilty of this myself. Just watching those types of videos just for comfort. But I think what we need to do and what we need to seek out is more nuance in those stories. It's not terrible, in my opinion, to seek comfort in those types of stories, in stories of their tragic rock stars, like the Watch Mojo videos like to say, because it's okay to to empathize this one and to feel understood. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. And in my opinion, that's one of the magics of music, is to be understood by it. So that's not the problem. In my opinion, the problem is like I said, the like the videos that are not made for nuance and perspective, but are made for just consumption. That's, I think, the word that sums it up really well, and the word that Cobain probably also hated. And I'm doing the same thing, but I'm saying maybe he did, but from reading his journals and everything, which I'll also get back to in a second. Consumption is okay, but it needs to be controlled, and you need to be aware of your consumption, and that's relevant for the most diehard Nirvana fans who watched every interview and can cite every single live show ever, and also to those who just like teen spirit, So yeah, that's important to keep in mind. But yeah, I just mentioned the journals, which I have right here, the Kurt Cobain journals, and this is an interesting one, and I think it's also a very similar case to the Montage of Heck CD and the documentary, which I've watched like 30 times. I really like it. Maybe not entirely but the art vision is cool behind it, the animated scenes and everything. But yeah, let's get back to the journals. This I found when I was in Birmingham, and I found it in just like this, in a bin of like used stuff, and it was just £5. £5 for this entire book. Great deal, great deal in my opinion. But yeah, the journals. Sorry, it's late, and I just came back from my shift as a dishwasher, so don't be mad at me if I mispronounce some words. But yeah, this one is interesting, and this is the one that I'm most conflicted with, because some people, in my life said that it's not okay to read those, and it's not okay to read someone's personal stuff. And at the baseline of it, I agree. Like, especially that. Although I don't know if especially that's the one. Also, another thing with obviously Courtney Love. Everyone has an opinion about her, and even more so probably than the Cobain, than of Cobain. But she was his wife, and we didn't know their relationship, so it's not for us to judge, And yeah, coming back to the journals, as with everything in life, I think the most important thing about reading those journals is intention. It's like I said, almost everything in life, intention is really important. And if you're reading those journals to just to convince yourself of some things that you were looking for to convince yourself, then don't read them. If you have this sickly need to, this tabloid need to know everything about every celebrity, then don't read them. It's not okay. But if you're coming to them as a fan, and if if Kurt was and is an important part of your life, and you grew up with him, he helped you, even though yeah, you can say he helped you. Go on, it's okay. You can say he helped you. So if he was an important part of your life, and you're coming to those journals with appreciation, with no judgment, but just with pure curiosity about your, idol, which, idols, having an idol is another part that is kind of fishy, but it's, I guess for another time, or maybe later in the video. Let's wait and see. But yeah, so if you have that pure intention, then those journals are fantastic. And also they are very motivating, in my opinion. Yeah, that's another thing that many people that say you shouldn't read those journals forget about. Because if you have a similar experience as Cobain, if you're a musician from a broken home, or just you understand him, I guess, then those journals are really motivating. Like, goddamn, just if you're really reading handwritten lyrics to his to his songs, and you're reading the math of having a band, like he writes here that this and this goes for gas, this and this goes for practice room, and like in a letter to Dave Grohl, which I have right here, he says that a band, I'm gonna just cite, it's better always to cite. So yeah, Dave, 5/24/1998. a band needs to practice, in our opinion, at least 5 times a week if the band ever expects to accomplish anything, and that's very true. And those kind of you need to kind of pick your poison with this journal. You need to find things that motivate you, not things that just fit into the morbid curiosity of a celebrity, and there is a lot of motivation in it. So yeah, those are the journals. I could talk about them for like maybe I will make a video just reading the journals. Although no, you need to buy them if your intention is pure, and just experience them for yourself. The next thing is the montage of Heck documentary and CD. And I think that's a very similar case to the journals, as in, I've listened to the CD to death. And, as a, I guess, musician myself and a person who just loves art, and loves the same just qualities in music as I think Kurt did, then this is great. Like, who doesn't want to, what, I don't know, I wouldn't say who, but what Nirvana fan wouldn't want to, hear the demo of, let's see, Francis Farmer, or what else is there? Oh, and Kurt's cover of "And I Love Her," which was the first song that I learned to sing and play on guitar at the same time. It's very hard, but I did that like, I don't know, 5 years ago. I'm quite good at that now, but then it was hard. And "I Love You," it's a great song to learn for the first time if you wanna sing and play at the same time. Recommend it totally. And so it's a good insight, it's a good motivation to, keep practicing, because some of those songs on this CD, and there are 31 songs, none of them are, not all of them are songs, but most are, they are not perfect. Some of them are pretty terrible, but that's great. You need to also listen to how the band and how the Kurt's vision started. Where is the origin of Kurt Cobain's style and songs? Because a lot of people get discouraged when they listen to the Nirvana's hits and Nirvana's best songs and think like, oh my god, I could never, like, my songs are nothing compared to All Apologies, or I don't know, Dumb, or whatever. But then you listen to, like, I don't know, the Yodel song, or Beans, and you see that he also didn't really know what he was doing, and all things must start somewhere, and that's great. If you're discouraged in your process, not only of making music but also art in general, then this is great. But this city got a lot of hate, and I'm not really sure why. Like, a lot of people, said that, oh my god, what is this? Like, who would ever listen to this? And, like, if you're not a diehard Nirvana fan, what are you doing listening to Montage of Heck, the home recordings? Like, it's pretty clear who this city is for. And so, yeah, that's that. And yeah, I think that's about it for now. Although no, let's ramble a little bit more, because I was also thinking about this thing that's coming back to the tragedy and the comfort in tragedy, that we do idolize the Ian Curtises of the world and the Cobains of the world. But for example, I think John Coltrane is a great example of someone we should idolize. And by saying that, I don't mean that we shouldn't like, look up to Cobain, look up to Curtis. They were great musicians. They were, geniuses in their own right. But I think it's important to kind of throw John Coltrane, for example, because he's a really great example, and Cobain into the same fist, into the same bucket. Because, John Coltrane was a genius, like everybody knows this. But he struggled with a lot of the same stuff that Cobain struggled with, and many musicians struggled with. But he found resolution. And I'm not sure why we don't, seek the comfort in resolution of pain and musicians. Like, Coltrane, as I said, suffered a great bit of pain, similar to Cobain, but he overcame that. Sorry. And of course, with the album A Love Supreme, he showed us that love can overpower the pain. And, of course, this is spiritual. Coltrane's later stuff were very spiritual. And maybe that's why some people are kind of taken aback by the resolution that Coltrane had, because some people, some musicians, some, just like art people, fans of Nirvana, fans of music, they stay away from religion, kind of fearing it, or just not taking it seriously. And I don't think that religion, in case of Coltrane, is that important. I mean, of course it is, but what I'm trying to say is that the John Coltrane story is very motivating. And, of course, he died young, but the resolution is a very important part. And I guess I'm going to be wrapping up, because the instance is also wrapping up. But what I want you to take away from this video is that maybe we should sometimes look on the Coltranes of the world, and not always on the Cobains. And I'm saying that also, being in the Nirvana phase as we speak. I listen to Nirvana every day. I watch the, in my opinion, good essays and interviews, but I still keep in mind that it's good not to just wrap yourself around this misery of the musician, and kind of, be in this world, but also kind of be aware of what happened and why it shouldn't be comfortable in some sense, and why sometimes you need to remind yourself of a person like John Coltrane instead of a person like Kurt. But like I said, both of them are geniuses, and both of them should be remembered. And yeah, so I guess, I don't know, I'm going to sleep. I just worked for 8 hours scrubbing dishes, so I'm gonna listen to some Nirvana or some Coltrane. I don't know, we'll see. So yeah, listen to music, appreciate art, be mindful, be aware of the art, and yeah, have a good night.